There was a boy who couldn't afford a football, so he practiced his footwork anyway. He and his friends made a ball out of old socks and cloth, and the street became their football field. Slowly, his skills grew sharper and sharper. 1950, Brazil's heartbreak-own day, he sat on a bench listening to a match on the radio. It was 1950, and Brazil was hosting the World Cup. The whole country believed the trophy would finally be theirs. Then, in the final minutes, Uruguay scored. The packed stadium went completely silent. A nation's dream had shattered in an instant. A young boy saw his father cry for the first time. He walked over slowly and made a quiet promise. "One day, I will win the World Cup for Brazil." His father said nothing. He just pulled him into a hug. That boy's name was Edson, though the world would come to know him as Pele, a poor but determined family. Pelé's family was very poor. His father worked as a cleaner at a hospital just to keep the household running. And some days there wasn't even enough money for food. Young Pele felt his father's struggle deeply and wanted to find some way to help. With no money for a real ball, he played with the cloth one for hours. To him, it was his World Cup trophy. Whenever he stepped onto the field, a special spark lit up in his eyes. It looked like he wasn't just playing, he was dancing. Lessons from his father every day. His father taught him something new. Football isn't just played with the feet, it's played with the mind too, he'd say. Pele listened carefully to every word, and slowly his speed, control, and dribbling all improved. He decided then that no matter how poor he was, he would never choose the wrong path. A new city. His family moved to a new city. There he met a group of boys who played football every evening, and he joined them. People started calling him by a nickname instead of his real name. And at first, he didn't like it at all. He'd argue with anyone who called him Pele, but football soon became his entire world. Work in the morning, football every evening. People were amazed that a boy so young could play so brilliantly. And neighbors began stopping just to watch. The scout who changed everything one day, a former Brazilian footballer named Valdemar de Brito, saw him play. Within minutes he realized this boy was no ordinary player. After the match he walked straight up to Pele and asked him to try a few simple moves. Pele performed each one with effortless ease. With the right training, this boy could rule the world, the scout said. But there was a problem. The family was too poor for the boy to go play football in a big city. It felt like an impossible dream. When the scout spoke with his father, the father could hardly believe it. Could his own son really achieve something so big? Leaving home a few days later, Pele left home for the first time, carrying a small bag, 1,000 dreams, and his father's trust in his eyes. But the new city showed him competition far tougher than before. Every player there was fast, skilled, and sharp. Some mocked him, seeing just a poor village boy. Pele didn't answer with words. He answered with his game. Practice began, and small matches were arranged. The moment the ball touched his feet, every eye turned to him. He dribbled past player after player, repeating each move again and again until it was perfect. Slowly his hard work began to show. And one goal in a practice match brought the whole crowd to its feet. Finding his own style. Some Brazilian football wanted players to copy a stiffer, European style. But for Pele, football was never just a sport, it was passion. Whenever the ball reached his feet, his steps began to move almost like a dance. This free, rhythmic style would later become famous as Ginga. Now came the biggest question. Should he change himself or trust his own way? Rising opposing players tried everything to stop him, and some said his style would never make him great. But within months his name was known across Brazil, and crowds began gathering just to watch him play. Then came the news. He'd been selected for Santos Football Club, the club every young player dreamed of joining. Pele jumped with joy, but his father stayed calm and said, "This isn't the destination, son, this is just the beginning." Proving himself at Santos, his first day at Santos, the other players didn't take him seriously. They thought a thin boy from a village had no real chance. But once the practice match began, everything changed. Pele earned his place on the main team, and every match he played better than the one before. His photo began appearing in newspapers, and people talked about his goals on the radio. The call to the national team. Meanwhile, Brazil's national team was searching for new talent. The country still hadn't forgotten the heartbreak of 1950, when the selection committee saw Pele play. They too were amazed. A letter arrived at his home. The moment he opened it, his eyes lit up. He'd made the national team. Joy spread through the household. And his father remembered the boy who had once promised to win the World Cup for him. Injury before the World Cup, but the joy didn't last. Right before the World Cup, Pele was injured during practice, and doctors warned that if it worsened, his tournament could be over. He hadn't fully healed, but his passion to play was stronger than his fear. In the early matches, the coach kept him resting on the sidelines. The moment arrived finally. The day came that he'd waited for since childhood. The coach added his name to the starting lineup. The moment he stepped onto the field. Opponents tried to stop him constantly, pushing him down again and again. But he never gave up. He found his chance, scored a brilliant goal, and the entire stadium erupted with joy. The final match and came the final, the hopes of an entire nation resting on it. Both teams played with everything they had, and with every passing minute the pressure grew heavier. One small mistake could change everything. Pele remembered his childhood, playing with a ball made of old socks, and his father's words, never stop playing, and always stay true to yourself. The winning goal, so Pele played his own way, free and fearless. His opponents couldn't tell where the ball was really going. One player fell, another was left behind, and then Pele scored a goal that shook the stadium with joy. His teammates lifted him onto their shoulders as thousands of fans celebrated. Brazil had become World Cup champions, fulfilling the promise. Boy who had once made a quiet promise to his father had finally kept it. He thought first of his father's face and the small home he grew up in. Remembering the cloth ball they'd made together, tears of joy filled his eyes. And every player on the field applauded for him. Closing message: Pele always knew one truth: talent alone is never enough. Self-belief in hard times, family support, and never giving up. That's what builds legends. And that is why, even today, when the world speaks of the greatest footballers, one name always comes first: Pele.